Welcome everyone to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host from MySelf Reliance, and it's so good to be with you tonight. We are only 2.5 weeks away from the biggest weekend of the year, our Freedom Summit in October. And I want to welcome Alex, our special guest speaker tonight. Welcome, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, Alex, before we jump into your topic tonight, or talking all about Disconnect Me, have you heard about our summit coming up?
In our correspondence, you mentioned it briefly. The summit. The summit in our correspondence, the summit I was kind of referencing was the one that's happening next week at the Parliament House in relation to what we're going to talk about tonight. But I'm keen to find out, what you guys are going to do in October as well.
Beautiful. All right. Can I give you a little bit of a rundown?
Yeah, please do.
So starting on the Friday, the 18th of October, where we start early in the morning. At 8 a.m. we're having yoga. So you can actually camp the whole weekend. So you can bumping in on the Thursday, wake up to morning yoga, and then our day starts at 9 o'clock. We've got a workshop on oils. I believe in how we start our day is creates how we do life, basically. And so we get our day off to a good start. I'm going to teach you all about the jigsaw method and how to get started in your day. We've got a permaculture workshop after that. We're going to get our hands dirty and make seed bomb, which is super cool. Then we've got the Natural Health Society coming to talk and have a panel discussion. We've got amazing talks on freeing up ourselves. So we're going to unleash all those burdens that we carry around and let go of those. That's day one. Finishing off the day one, we're going to have a talent show, karaoke, and we've got a beautiful band coming to play.
Oh, wow.
On to day two, we're going to start the day with ice bath.
Oh my gosh.
So then we have amazing talks from Freeman Fung. He is it's like he's like a Zen Buddha. He's like some amazing, and he's going to do some transformational talk. And then we've got fiery Serene Tapaha coming from Victoria. She talks about communities. Then we've got Talia from the Living Council coming from Queensland. She talks about living in private. And then we move into our afternoon session after lunch. We're going to do how to prepare for emergencies. We've got ancient weapons, so spear throwing. We've got self-defense class. We've got our talk about nanotech and how to deal with nanotechnology. And we've got Michael O'Neill. If you ever know Barbara O'Neill, we're all lots of fans of Barbara O'Neill. Her husband, he runs a party at the Heart Party, and so he's going to come and do a meet and greet. And then Saturday night, we wrap it all up with a beautiful barn dance. Who doesn't love the old-fashioned bush dance?
Oh, wow, that sounds wonderful.
Amazing, right? And then that goes on to day three. And day three, we have the amazing Dr. Pran Yoga Nathan. He's very spiritual, but he's a gastroenterologist. He's probably not going to talk about the gut. He's like, yeah, I've got better things to talk about. Serene's going to do a little bit more talk on food and food security. We've got then Candace. She's going to share with us about fermentation. So day three is all centered around food. And then we have a game show after lunch. It's an interactive game show looking at some of the concerns that we face today. And we're going to roll the dice and we're going to play the game, and we're going to, it's very interactive, lots of fun. And we'll finish off with a closing ceremony and then a spit roast with our Country Meats Direct. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is full on. Yeah.
23 speakers and experts. Oh, I forgot to say, starting off day 3, we're starting off with somatic dance. So really moving into your body and letting go of those inhibitions and getting all that flow happening. So yeah,
Right.
pretty full on, huh?
Right. Yeah. Right. Fantastic.
The nice thing is that we don't have to bump out until Monday. So anyone want to make a full weekend of it, of camping, can do that. But of course it's in Kenthurst, so it's not too far out of Sydney. So if you just want to come for the day, then you can do that. We have day tickets, and also separate to any other ticket, we've got the barn dance ticket as well. So yeah, looking forward to that. And Alex, if you want to join us on that weekend, we'd love to have you.
Thank you.
And some tickets your way. So let's jump into tonight's topic. And I will just say registration for our Freedom Summit ends on Friday. So jump in and get your tickets on Friday and don't miss out. So tonight we're here with Alex. Alex is the star of the film Disconnect Me, and also as on the back of the fame of Disconnect Me, he's also done other films, Me and My Left Brain. We're going to jump in and talk about all of those films that you've done, Alex. But before we show the trailer, I would just want to say I went to see Alex, his film, and meet him in person. And this is how we're in this conversation together tonight. And we got to really dive deep into what is life like if you take away your phone and take away that technology. So you did that for 30 days, right, Alex?
I did, yes, for 30 days. It was something that I've been, I guess a lot of what I learned in those 30 days I'm carrying today, which is great because I only need to charge my phone once every 2 days, sometimes once every 3 days. So there's an added benefit already.
Amazing. Amazing. A lot of us would feel like if they are without their phone for just a few hours, then we come undone. And so this
see, that's a misconception, because it's more the fear of not having your phone. Once you do it, you realize how much you don't miss it. But I can talk about that,
Why don't we show we'll show the preview, and then we'll jump into some conversations. And if anyone hasn't seen it before, you'll get a little glimpse of to what the movie looks like.
So guys, normally what I do is I'll check my phone whilst I'm on the toilet, I'm checking for news or sports results.
What would happen if I completely disconnect from my smartphone for a full 30 days? Would I be able to survive in this digital age?
This tells me that you're continuously bending over.
I don't want to be addicted.
It's almost subconsciously just reach for your phone.
I wish I could put it away.
I've got an alarm clock. What do you think of it?
Yeah, but I like smartphones better.
How much time do you spend on your phone?
12 hours a day.
Whoa! 12 hours a day?
If something isn't done, there's going to be major social problems.
Oh man, I need my phone back. I'm done.
It's a contradiction. A smartphone, it's sort of making us dumber.
Young girls who spend a lot of time online can have up to 3.8 times the risk of depression.
If you get a bad comment, what do?
I usually turn off my phone. Just try not to look at it. But yeah, it definitely internalizes.
I'm definitely a little stressed by what's on my phone.
Everyone's so connected nowadays. The second you feel disconnected, it's like you're anxious because it's like, what's going on?
You know what? I almost got into a car accident whilst you're looking at the Gregories.
It's indicating that you stop breathing about 9 times an hour.
I'll be back. We definitely need to get some magazines in here.
That was amazing, Alex, to watch that film in its entirety.
Thank you.
What did you learn while you were in that 30 days?
basically what I was kind of touching on just a few moments ago, and that is the perception that I had that I needed the technology. I needed to look at my social media on a regular basis. But then when I went without it, it became very apparent very quickly I didn't need it that much. In fact, I didn't need it at all. And it took about maybe 24 to 48 hours where it almost became a non-event, especially social media. The primary component of the phone, and that is making phone calls, making text messages, being available to be reached at any time. I missed that. That was difficult. It was the social media component that I didn't miss. The Googling every 5 seconds or whatever. I didn't miss that at all. And it's now been a while since I did the experiment, and to this day, I don't have any social media on my phone at all. I have no apps on my phone. I have Google Maps. I have the Torch app, a couple more apps, but no social media at all. And as I said, my battery lasts a lot longer. And for me, it's working well for me. I'm not saying life's perfect or anything like that, but I was down that rabbit hole quite a lot with my social media, and I feel like now I'm out of that rabbit hole. I'm not just going in and looking at what everybody else is doing. I'm just kind of being more present in the moment and, a bit more at one with myself.
Do you, now since you've shown this film, a lot of teens have seen it. You've showed it to a lot of teens in schools.
Yep.
What's been their reaction?
It's good, right? I mean, look, it's a tricky one because, and for a lot of things, in the moment, the kids really responded because, as you saw with the film, I tried not to be dry with all the content. I tried to kind of color it so they don't get bored. And in that moment, the kids all spoke about acknowledging how much time they spend on social media and they need to reduce it. Now, whether they've gone ahead and sustained that reduction in social media use, it's hard to tell, because we can do it for a day, 2, 3, then we can easily fall back into patterns, right? It's about sustaining it. It's harder for kids, right? Especially if everybody else is on it. And that's the challenge for them, right? Everybody communicates, especially for teenagers, through social media. Suddenly you're a teenager and you take yourself out of that social media world, suddenly you feel left out, right? That's the challenge. So, but by and large, I would say maybe 2 out of every 5 or 6 probably made some small amendments. I did get a variety of responses, like, for example, some teenagers said, well, look, I'm just going to kind of get rid of one app a month, and wean myself off. I've spoke to a lot of parents and they said, well, we're going to now impose, a no phones policy at the dinner table. So I think from what I got in my interaction with people after the film screenings, was that everyone kind of came at it from a slightly different approach. For me, what's worked best for me, and I can't speak for others, for me, what's worked best is I still have social media because I've got friends around the world. I'm in the arts, but I will tonight, after this Zoom, I will just spend half an hour, go through all my social media and be done with it. And it's around about this time, 9:30, when I'll do it and then be done with it, because that's how people communicate, whether it's Messenger or whatever. And it takes me about 15 minutes now, and then I'm done. I don't look at it again. That's worked for me, but I guess everyone's got a different way that they might, some people have got a good balance with social media. They don't need to do anything. But that seems to be working best for me. Whereas during the day when I'm out, social media doesn't cross my mind. It just doesn't now. It's so ingrained in my body where it just doesn't cross my mind.
Last week we spoke with Dr. Diana and about arming teens and parents with some strategies for how to deal with some of the challenges that we're seeing today. And certainly when we were young, we didn't grow up with a phone in our hand. And so, we kind of, that young teen, if you're my age, we were able to get through that and be able to have to deal with social media as an adult. And that's what kids are facing these days, are growing up with a phone in their hand and not knowing any different, not knowing about that there's a phone attached to the wall. And, you know, you had to have a conversation in front of everybody else, you know, and that now you can take your friends into your bedroom or into the bathroom even. But I do like that those strategies, you know, if people can take one or two strategies out of what they've seen and apply it and say, okay, well, maybe this is where I can pull back. And having, like you said, having that dinner around the table without the phones is a really great step, really good first step to it.
Yeah, I think if you become too prescriptive, I think that's where you probably might run into a bit of trouble with, especially with teenagers. But by providing them with a variety of tools, and then maybe they can pick out what they think might work best for them, is probably, I think, slightly better. I know that we tried hard in the film not to preach to them. You know, we were very conscious not to, because once you do that, kids are like, I'm out. And once you start telling me about life and telling me how to lead my life, I'm out. Right. So we tried hard not to preach to them just by implying some things. And I think that worked. So I think allowing them, giving them some agency in terms of, you know, well, go away, have a think at what are your patterns? Because your patterns may be different to my patterns. It used to get me down. You know, when I got into that rabbit hole of just scrolling, mindlessly scrolling, it actually got me down emotionally. It may not get you down emotionally. It may be a way to numb you. Good luck to you. It got me down. So I know that was my trigger that I needed to kind of, I guess, eliminate. And this is a strategy that I've implemented that's worked best for me. I know what my triggers are.
One of the things that came up in the film that I really loved is how you talked about how phones are made.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did that surprise you too, how we get the phone? And
yeah, see, that was a bigger part of the film in the original edit, as we were editing the movie. How films are made, how phones are made, and I guess some of the radiation that kind of is emitted from phones played a bigger role in the movie, but it got quite dry and there was a lot of conflicting evidence. And we thought, look, you know what? Let's not focus too much energy on it. Let's just identify it and then kind of let it go. So to provide a bit of a snapshot, but because, yeah, I mean, look, and, you know, we're humans. We know that, you know, we get that, oh my gosh, then we're back to our phones, you know, but hopefully people become a little bit more conscious to perhaps not get that new phone every single year. You know, my phone's now about almost 6 years old, you know, which is okay. You know, I can manage that.
Yeah.
Right. But if I'm getting a phone every year, maybe I'm, you know, in the indulgent category a little bit. Because I know how they're made.
Right. And so then with the EMFs and the dangers that having a phone maybe too close to your ear, or even these, I don't know, earbuds, what are some of the things that that came out in there that?
Well, I can see that you're wired, which is great. And I'm wired too, which is great. Look, again, this is a rabbit hole unto itself because there is so many vested interests here because, you know, just imagine for a moment, you know, the evidence was categorically conclusive that the radiation emitted from smartphones was hazardous. We're talking not a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're talking a multi-trillion-dollar industry would go down, right? That's not going to happen. Okay, there's too much money at stake. So I think mitigating the potential for radiation exposure by wiring up where you can, I wouldn't recommend the AirPods, for example, and just not having that phone to your ear, you know, especially for long haul calls. using, I carry headphones everywhere I go. I've got this one vest that everyone kind of, laughs at me that I always wear, but it's got this great pocket here that I just kind of carry my headphones that go into this pocket, right? And so I always wire up. Anything wired is good. But look, that evidence, it's very, very hard to get to the nub of it because there's a lot of vested interests, and it's very, very hard to do that, right? Very, very hard. So I don't want to go one way or the other. We got into a bit of trouble with our Panzer, etc. So I just wire up myself, and I don't have the phone go near my ear. I'd rather err on the side of caution.
And that's very, in your person in your position has to be very careful because you could find yourself getting into trouble with big companies who want to not want to be in the limelight when it comes to those things. Did you get any pushback when you were making the film, or were you just cautious when you were editing to be treading the nice line?
Yeah, look, the pushback we got was we got such conflicting evidence from different experts. And then, so in order to kind of interview certain experts, they had to get they wouldn't give us the interview without having final say on how they were edited in the movie. So basically, okay, well, we had to give that to them, right? But then essentially, if we, portrayed any of what they said in a way that they weren't happy with, then they could just say, well, sorry, we're not going to allow this to be in the final cut of the movie. And I'm like, okay, well, so we're kind of cornered either way, right? Yes. So that's why in that section of the movie, we kept it short. We kind of implied certain things and just let it go.
Yes.
So therefore, we had no experts speak in that section because I couldn't just have an expert speak, saying, well, the radiation emitted is dangerous, and then not have the counterbalance. So it was either both sides or no sides. So we just kept it small. We just raised it and then just let it go and moved on.
Yes. Yeah. And then let people make up their own mind.
Yeah,
and
they can do their own research. Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. And so the people that you interviewed, was there many more that you interviewed that didn't kind of get in the film? Did you?
Is this in relation to the radiation component of smartphones, or just generally speaking?
Just generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah, look, there was a few other interviews that just didn't make the final cut. You start off with a 3-hour edit, and then you work your way down. You've got to do it. I think the final edit was 86 minutes. The school's version is 52 minutes, so you just got to kind of go with. The thing about experts is, you and I, we may be interested in what they've got to say, but when you just hear expert after expert, it becomes a bit dry, it becomes a bit information driven, and becomes a bit boring, right? So you've got to counterbalance the authenticity in terms of the information you're conveying, but also keeping the movie, engaging and interesting for an audience. Otherwise, they won't care. They'll switch off. And that way you're not having any impact.
I was maybe wondering about how the kinds of responses that you were getting from the youth. One of the youth that you had that interviewed was very much already on board with, I'm just going to have a flip phone. Don't give me that. I don't want all of that technology. Just give me that. Very switched on.
He was terrific. I mean, he was terrific. And, in my view, I think he kind of bucked the trend for a teenager. He's a bit of a trendsetter, and, dances to his own beat. And he's able to navigate his teenage years without the, restrictions, if you will, of social media. He's got his dumb phone, or we call it a flippy. And, he seemed to be pretty together in terms of what his, life was looking like as a teenager and moving forward. So he seemed very well-rounded and very together and emotionally quite stable.
I have been on lately, like to see if you can get a flippy phone, because my kids aren't at the age where they have their own phone. I thought, great, if I could get a phone for them where they just get to communicate with me and not all the gaming and the things that go with it. Is there any tips did you find out? How can you do that?
To get a dumb, what's called a dumb phone?
Yeah.
It's my understanding in the last 6 months, more and more companies are getting on board, understanding the slow transition that people are looking to kind of move away from being exposed to the smartphone, 24 hours a day, and they're now making these dumb phones. So they're much more prevalent now, and I'm sure that if you go to any kind of mobile phone store, they do have quite a significant amount of options.
So good, isn't it?
Yes,
So
yes,
good.
it is. It is. And I think it's a good way to introduce, I guess, preteens, if you will, to the phone, because it's a great safety tool without all of the other components that come along with the smartphone.
I feel like as we've come along in technology and boundaries and things get pushed to an extreme, there is the comeback point. And just like when homeschooling seemed to be a way out there thing to do, it's coming back into its own now, and resources and things are made available. And now I'm homeschooling 3 of my own. And I feel that the same with technology. We'll see things come back to a middle ground, and we will have more people saying, hey, I know you're offering that. I can see that. It's not a future that I really want. And we might find ourselves, and a good proportion of the population going, yeah, this is the way that I want to trend, not that way.
Look, I think that's a salient point that you make. I really do. And I think the next big move is it's great what the government is trying to do in terms of, perhaps raising the age of social media use. I think it's 12 to 16, I'm not sure. But I think the next big move is going to come with, so what's happened now is they banned phones in schools, right? Which is great. It's worked. But what have kids done? They're smart, right? What are they doing? They're putting everything onto their laptop devices, right? So they've got access to video games and social media on their laptop devices. So, they've moved everything from their smartphone to the laptop device. I think the next big move, and not now, I don't think we're ready for that now, but maybe in 5 to 10 years' time, schools will go back to the books, the notepads, and pen and paper, and just completely eradicate BYOD in the classroom. They'll have separate computer rooms because technology is very important, and that's where we're headed. You don't want kids to fall behind. But in the everyday, day-to-day classes, be it English or be it mathematics, I think what's going to happen in about 5 to 10 years' time, things will go back to the textbook, the hard copy textbook, and the notepad with pen and paper. I mean, that's just my personal view, because you can just see the kids now, they're just doing everything on the devices.
Yeah. And that's how I've done homeschooling. It's like, okay, you don't need a computer. We're just going to go back to that. And so it's good we can have that choice, and hopefully, I mean, it's probably going to take things getting worse before they get better to for that swing to happen again. But it does happen in different, as you say, generations, and they have to experiment this way before they come back. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's anyone in the audience that might, watching along, might have a question, might want to type that in. So, Alex, now you have young ones in primary. What do you think is the way to go, in terms of your family and giving your kids a phone, and what will you do?
Look, that's a real good question. I certainly see, it seems to be the unofficial age that a young one gets a phone is first year of high school. That just seems to be a natural kind of progression. It comes along with safety, because obviously you may be, the kid might be catching a bus to school or a train to school or whatever. But I still think that let's call it, excuse the language, the dumb phone. I still think the dumb phone, you've got no phone at least until first year of high school. I think that's not unreasonable. But then maybe the dumb phone from first year of high school for the first year or two, and then perhaps the slow transition into the smartphone, because it's going to be hard not to give them a smartphone. We've got to be realistic, right? It's going to be very hard not to, because every other kid does. There's all kinds of different, I guess, social and mental challenges that come along with that. But look, I think it's for each family and for each kid. Again, not a prescriptive model. Well, you got to be 13, you get a dumb phone, and 14, I don't think that's the way to go. I think we've got to be malleable and flexible and cater to the different family needs, because family dynamics have changed now. There's various family dynamics, and I think we've got to then find ways to, or each family's got to find ways to make the technology work for them. So I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule. I don't know if that's healthy to kind of say, right, this is the age or whatever, because it could be 18, like that kid in the film, he doesn't have one at all. Good luck to him. It's working for him.
Yeah, 100%. And that's I think the scary part is when people look to find a problem in society and then look to government to fix it. Whenever they do that, that's when the government, they can't implement a rule that's going to suit everyone.
No.
And therefore that becomes a mess. Or that families can take that control back into their own situation and say, take that responsibility. I think when families can do that, then that's when we have more of a balanced society. So we can hear your young ones in the background.
Yeah. I might just tell her 1 second. You can be heard, Myra. Okay, great.
All good. Yeah, so I like what you said about that, no hard and fast rules, because we don't want governments to come in and have to make, fix society on our behalf. That's not going to do anything.
No. The only point I will make on that is when the states introduced a ban on smartphones. So before, teachers would be like, come on, put the phone away, put the phone away, put the phone away. And it was a battle, right? A constant battle. There was no line drawn in the sand. Once the state governments went on board and said, right, now we're making phones illegal to be presented in the classroom, it was an easier discussion for the teacher to have with the children or the teenagers, and therefore an easier discussion for the teacher to have, or the principal to have with the parent, to say, well, look, it's not us. We're not the ones saying it. We've just got to follow what the legislation is. So it allowed for a better communication with the parent. That's what's been good about creating some legislation in relation to smartphones being allowed in class. But I think if you overdo it, you run the risk of doing the job of the parent, which we don't want.
Is that the same for private schools as well?
Look, that's a good question. I don't know. I know that for public schools, I think it's a ban on all high schools. But I think the private schools in particular already had banned the phone, like from years prior.
Yeah. So what now? Tell us about, I know, I want to share with everybody kind of the things that you do, Alex. So just want to get everyone a glimpse of who you are in your career. And we were talking earlier before we started recording, but what else have you done in your history as a filmmaker?
I think I briefly mentioned earlier that I started off in the theatre, and we were putting on new Australian works. One of our more successful ones was Alex and Eve, which was about the cross-religious relationship, which is like a comedic version of Romeo and Juliet. that we adapted that for the screen and became our first film back in 2015. You can see it on Netflix if you have Netflix. We don't have Netflix. And then from then, our next film was, we kept doing stage shows, but the next film was a film called Me and My Left Brain, which pretty much examines that inner critic in our own heads, that inner monologue that happens, the battle between one side of our brain and the other side of our brain. And then obviously this is the third film that we made, Disconnect Me, which was, a documentary examining our relationship with technology. But, we've done a variety of stuff. We've done a musical, which was a lot of fun, a stage musical, and a variety of stage shows, both drama and comedy. So, we like to kind of get out there and explore different themes, depending on what stage of life we're at. And this was one that, to be quite honest with you, it helped me, irrespective of the film. Just doing it for my own sake was really good, for me personally and my mental health. So
do you recommend
I got a personal benefit.
Yeah.
I recommend
doing a detox.
Look, again, I'll go back to the non-prescriptive, I guess, process that I would suggest, and that is, I did it for 30 days just because it was a gimmick, right? It was, let me see how I go, right? No one needs to do that, and we don't need to do that 30 days. It's a bit silly, really. It's convoluted. But, whether it's, from 9 to 5, or if I go to work every Friday, I'm going to leave it at home, or, it's different ways that you can perhaps just minimize that exposure to, whether it's social media or talking to your friends or whatever the case may be. I think for each individual to be able to say, well, honestly, what is my relationship with social media? What is my relationship with my phone? Even if it's a simple matter of, as you mentioned, we briefly speak about phubbing, am I present in my relationships? I'm sure, at the summit that you're going to have, the centerpiece is going to be presence, being in the moment and being present, not kind of the half presence, not the, yeah. You're listening, but you're hearing, but you're not really listening. Being present and in the moment, which I think is really important. So whatever little tweak you can do, it's going to kind of help your mental health. Doesn't matter what you do, right? I mean, we're going to have our emotional battles, but if you can manage your use, how much time you spend with your devices, plural, not just the phone, the iPad as well, I think that's good. I know it's good for me.
Well, you mentioned you don't have Netflix, and that's very interesting given that you're a filmmaker. And, being in that industry and I guess kind of other industries where people need to promote themselves and do a lot of self-promoting on socials. And, if you're not on socials, then how are people going to find you? How do you manage that? How do you manage that promotion?
As I said, for me, half an hour does it.
Yeah.
I'm probably, it's probably to my detriment in many ways, because I'm not out there hustling. But I think the trade-off for me is that, I think emotionally I'm in a better place. I prefer that trade-off. So, and you just try and find a way to utilize that half an hour that you've got, that window that you got. And what happened was when we were, ironically enough, when we were promoting the movie when it was out in cinemas last year, I was at the computer more often and I was on social media more often, and I could just feel myself going down that rabbit hole again. And I was glad and relieved that once the film hit the cinemas and then left the cinemas, that it was over. Because I could just feel myself going back down there again. Because it wasn't on my phone, it was on my laptop, but I was on the laptop all day, every day. So I had access to it. And as I was promoting, like, oh, let me just scroll through here. And I was going in that rabbit hole again, which was, quite ironic. And here I was, promoting a film about, disconnecting. And yet here I was again, being seduced by the rabbit hole again. So I was so happy when it was over.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When you kind of, need to do it, but then and I know in my business too, right, that there's these times where I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not paying enough attention to the kids, and how am I, making everything work? But I guess it's seasons, and if we can, for me, after the summit is finished, maybe that's my season then to just relax off of it and give my attention to the kids.
Exactly. I think the other week, I had like 2 big bars of chocolate, right? I felt terrible, right? All right, we start fresh again. I won't have chocolate for a few days, right? Doesn't mean I'm a bad person, because I had two big bars of chocolate. I'm not going to punish myself, but okay, maybe it was a bit indulgent, and then you kind of try to kind of bring it in a little bit. And I did that with social media. Once the film was done, I was able to say, right, okay, good, that's done. I had my little excuse to be on social media more often. Now it's done. Let's get back to kind of how we were, and I've got that back ingrained in me, which has been good.
And it must have a runoff effect for the kids too. Do you see a difference in them?
I think so. I think the connections, a bit more in the present, especially during the holidays. I think so.
Yeah, amazing. And so good. I think mums tend to just have to be there for the kids, and sometimes dads tend to use work as an excuse to disconnect from the family. So it's really nice to be able to see that dynamic and what's happening there for you. So I wonder if there's any other questions. I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any other questions that have come in, and feel free if anyone has any questions for Alex tonight. And we've really covered some
I can
amazing.
read one here. Did you experience or observe people's ability to focus sorry, let's see. Okay, I don't know how to use it. I'm terrible. I'm absolutely terrible. Can you read it out, the question?
Yeah.
I'm
Did you
terrible.
experience or observe people's ability to focus for extended periods on a subject outside of entertainment or shortened attention span as a result of smartphones? So what was like, did you notice anything, the use of smartphones, how that, created a short attention span for people, or when they...
You become a little bit more observant, right? Because obviously when I'm on the train and I don't have my smartphone to look at, I'm looking at everybody else who's on their smartphone, I'm observing them. And, everyone is in there, right? You're in there. It's just you and that phone, and it's this portal, it's the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you're in there, and it kind of takes you to all these different, I guess perhaps artificial places, one might say. But I was able to kind of, focus out. And I still think I am. I'm a writer. I have to, right? I have to observe behaviors and people and nuances and whatnot, right? I can't be here, right? So definitely I did, and but I think to the point on short attention spans, I think there's a little bit of that. I certainly have observed my attention span shortened over the last 6 or 7 years, no doubt about that. Now, is it directly related to the phone? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really answer that.
Well, I had a visit with a family member, and their rule for their family was no YouTube shorts. And I'm like, oh, why? Because I like my Instagram shorts, and YouTube shorts, because you can learn quite a bit. And she said it was for the attention span, that they watch it for a short amount of time, and they flick and they flick and they flick. And so since then, I've come home and I've implemented that with my kids. No YouTube shorts. You can watch Netflix, the whole movie, and it makes them sit for longer before they, have to. And my youngest
move on.
Is really good.
Yeah, move on. The next one, the next hit, the next hit, the next hit, the next hit. Yeah, which for us as filmmakers is scary, right? Because you watch a film from the 70s, it's a slow burn, it's a development of character, and where's this going to go, and you kind of lull yourself into it, right? You can't do that now. Movies of the 70s, if kids watch them, my gosh, imagine them watching Casablanca. Oh my gosh, a Taxi Driver, right? So
how does that change when you're a filmmaker? Should scenes become a lot shorter?
Look, I mean, there's a whole variety of theories on that, right? I mean, films are now being made for Netflix, right? There's a model there for Netflix. There's a model there for a cinematic experience, right? We're kind of in this phase, we don't really know, whether the traditional principles of filmmaking or storytelling, do they still carry out? We don't really know that now, right? It's kind of here nor there. We're kind of looking at Oppenheimer, which was a 3-hour movie, but that was successful. But there's been so many other films that have gone for longer than 90 minutes that haven't been successful. But why did Oppenheimer work? And, I think what you said earlier, we're just trying to kind of find our way with these, kind of this different place that we're in from an attention span point of view and an emotional engaging point of view. And we tried with our film to not bore the audience, keep it moving along, especially dry information. Dry information is boring. Try to convey it in a somewhat engaging way.
Well, and that you successfully did that with your film, because I had my 10-year-old and 12 and 14-year-old, and they were very engaged in watching it. And, and it is for all ages. And it's great to show kids who are 10 years old, who are looking forward to their first phone, and getting them to see, the bird's eye view of the good with the bad, and getting that education before they get too deep into it. And one of my favorites that I love to watch is films based on real stories, real people, real life. And these days you watch something like that, and they far exceed in like wow factor than the fantasy story. Like, wow, did that really happen? Imagine that. Imagine going through that. So that's what I think maybe worked for Oppenheimer, is that it was based on something that really happened. So that's really interesting to see as you progress as a filmmaker, what comes out next. And I guess maybe who guides what? Do you guide what we watch, or are we guiding what you put on?
Look, it's really hard, isn't it? Because you just kind of, you're at whatever place you are in your life, your subconscious is going to be open to, a particular emotion or a particular kind of narrative, and it kind of comes, and then you kind of navigate it. And if you think there's a story there to be told, a theme to be explored, off I go. Now, if the audience, they engage with it, great. A lot of times they don't, and when they do, it's quite a nice experience. But ultimately, it's about, the stuff I'm writing about now is very different to what I wrote about when I first started writing about 16 years ago. So, I'm a bit older. I've got different perspectives, different desires, different challenges. And so I'm kind of led by that. And then, you do ask, is this going to be a story that's going to be engaging for an audience before I invest 2 years of my life into it? Because it's not much money in making movies. Theatre, it used to be better, but now with Netflix, it's very, very hard to get an audience to come to a new Australian play without some significant marketing money or a star who's in the show. Very hard. Before it was a lot easier.
So that leads me to my next question, and I have my 12, just about to be 13-year-old, wanting me consumed with, how do I become an actor?
Well, here's what I would suggest. A milk crate. those old milk crates.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Here's what I suggest: turn it upside down.
Yes.
Get your child to sit on it for about half an hour to an hour.
Yes.
And say, well, if you become an actor, you'll be able to afford a living room as about as comfortable as this milk crate.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you still want to? Yeah.
Do you still want to? Right? No, I'm only joking. I mean, I say that just jokingly, but look, it's a hard gig because there's a very small percentage of actors that make really good money. Right? We see them on TV, we see them in film. Right? Very, very, very. Right now, tonight, there's probably in this country alone, there's probably about 3,000 to 4,000 actors who are unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so put that into perspective, right? 3,000 to 4,000 actors that are unemployed, not working. They're working at a bar, at a cafe, doing all kinds of odd jobs because they're not employed as an actor. They might get 1 or 2 jobs a year. If you're lucky, 3 or 4 jobs a year. It's great when you get the work, but it's hard to get that work because there's a lot of competition for that work. But at the end of the day, if you love it, you love it, right? Can't think about it.
Is that because the film industry's not, I mean, obviously, compared to Hollywood, it's not going to be as big, but how healthy is the film industry in Australia?
Look, I can tell you now, theatre and film, I'll put them all in the one package. Since Netflix, it's been so hard to get people to go out, to leave their couch. To just a simple, one of our theatre shows, right? Well, even our movie, Discount Me, right? I actually, went to Norton Street, Palace Cinemas, and I had to do the Q&A afterwards, right? And I went there and I went with a friend and I said, I'll get you a glass of wine. So the glass of wine was one glass is $14. So I bought 2 glasses, $28. I thought to myself, okay, $28. The tickets were $25 each at Palace. That's $50 plus, say, $30 for the wine. That's $80, right? One night, 87-minute film. It was a nice night. We had the wine. It was great, whatever. But $80. That's what is that? I mean, I don't know what Netflix costs. Between $20 and $25, I think Netflix costs. So that's equivalent to around 4 months of 3,000 titles at your fingertips every single day for 4 months. How are we going to compete against that? I know people say, yeah, but I like going out. I know, but you're probably 1 out of every 100, Why go out? Why go out? It's so much easier to just kick back, get on the couch and just flick through the 3,000 titles. And one of the reasons why we don't have Netflix is because I don't want to flick through 3,000 titles and then say there's nothing on, right? I don't want to do that. I want to, see what's on. I know SBS On Demand has got some great movies or whatever. And, during Christmas, SBS was just playing a movie every night at 8 o'clock. So we just sat back and saw what's on. It was great, right? It was great to do that. We went with that, right? So, or go get a DVD. For me, my rule about buying a DVD is it a film I think I'm going to want to watch once or twice or 3 times? And if it is, I buy the DVD, right? And I'll watch it once, twice, 3 times and study it and all those types of things. So I'm a little bit old school like that. We're in fact watching ER again, right? Interestingly, when I used to watch ER, it was, 1 episode every week, and you couldn't wait for that week to pass to watch the next episode, right? But now when you watch it kind of, 3 or 4 episodes in one fell swoop, it is so overwhelming how much drama happens in ER, right? Because now you're watching these episodes all closely together. There's no breathing space between each episode, right? And you're like, oh, wow, geez, another thing happened. Oh, my God, another shooting. Oh, my gosh, there's so much that happens, right? Because you're kind of watching it all within the 4-hour time frame. So, look, I mean, it is very hard. It's not just here. It's around the world. It is very hard. But ultimately, there are always films that do kind of cut through, which is good. And there's going to be a theatre show that's going to cut through. It's just a lot harder now. I thought this film here would do really well at the cinemas, right? It's about a topic people care about, but ultimately it didn't do that great at cinemas. It's doing better, especially internationally, you know, on you know, the different streaming services. But to get people to go out and see a documentary in the cinema is so much harder, or any film for that matter.
How can people watch it now?
It will be on the streamers here in Australia next year.
Mm-hmm.
So because we're still playing it in schools, you know, we get, I guess, a good fee to play it at school. So if we were to put it on Netflix now, what would happen is schools would just kind of teachers will use their personal password or whatever, and therefore show it, and therefore we lose out on potential income stream, because, you know, we've got to make our money back for making the film. So we're trying to exercise that first, and next year we will stop playing it at schools, and then, you know, it'll go out to the streamers.
When you played at schools, do you have the live talk afterwards?
Yes. Only when only those schools based here in Sydney, because it's obviously too expensive for me to travel interstate for them. And they're just fantastic, because kids are so honest. They're great, you know. They're those discussions post screening are great. They're fantastic.
Awesome. And how, if anyone's watching and they want to have it at their school, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, you can contact myself. We've got the distributor, and I can just put them in touch with the distributor, and the distributor then does the deal, or one of the producers, and then off we go. You know, and we keep it relatively cheap. You know, it's, you know, a few $100s, you know, for schools to watch it. Obviously,
every kid pays a couple of bucks, and you're good.
And you're good, yeah, that's right. And we go to them, and it's easier for them rather than kind of kids having to go to a cinema screen. And, you know, they get, you know, 50, 60 kids. Sometimes we've had, you know, 200 kids. You know, we showed the film at Cranbrook High School, and Asquith came. Is it Asquith? Yeah, I think so. Came, and, you know, we had about 300 kids watching it, which is great. Yeah, you know, so it seems to work for them, I think, so, which is good.
So do people reach out to you? I mean, I would just go YouTube, type you in. So, but how do they reach out to you?
Look, I could give you my email address. You got my email address, so you can feel free to share it with anyone that you think.
Let's just type it in the chat. What is it?
And I'm old school. LYK.
LYK. Yep.
ONA.
Yep.
@hotmail.com.
Awesome. And I know lots of people will be watching the replay, and hopefully get you into more schools, because we want to have more kids experience this, and really, it's very entertaining. I just want to say it's very informative. It's very entertaining. I do happen to know a few people in it. There was the gorgeous redhead, so I know her very well, and also the girl who sings, so I know her mum Aphrodite very well, and she may be on watching tonight. And she's got a beautiful singing voice, her daughter does.
Oh my gosh. If I may say, we had the premiere at Enmore Theatre, okay, and there was 1,000 people in the theatre. And obviously, as you know, she sings in the film, you know, she's got this magnificent operatic voice. So what we did was, when the film finished, as the credits rolled, right, she sang Mio Babino Caro, right, in the film. So as the credits rolled, she came on and sang it live at Enmore Theatre in front of 1,000 people. She got this massive standing ovation. It was an extraordinary moment. I was so happy for her.
Wow. Would love to have been there.
Mm.
Did you reach your goal in creating the film, do you feel?
Did I reach my goal?
Did you have it like the, you know, did you achieve what you wanted to achieve?
I think I've achieved what I wanted. That's a good question. For me personally, for nothing else, getting those apps off my smartphone, I think, is a massive win for me personally. Now, you know, I'm not naive enough to think that, you know, one makes a film and, you know, can change the world forever. But if I can get, you know, those who do watch it, if somebody walks away and they're like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to kind of do a bit of a stock take on how, you know, I interact with social media or my technology, great. As a base case scenario, if somebody didn't get bored and they enjoyed themselves and had a good laugh and, you know, got something small out of it, then great. But it's certainly been great for me because I don't have those apps on my phone, and I'm happy about that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good tip actually, that if removing a few apps can increase your happiness, and that's really all it takes, then why not increase our happiness? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been amazing to have you tonight, and we really appreciate your insights and being here and sharing with us. It's not often we get a film star on the show, so no, really super appreciate it. And
no, thank you very much.
And what you've done for, you know, not only our family but families all over Australia. And I do think that you have had perhaps a bigger impact than your humbleness will let you admit. But yeah, thank you for going through that experiment and all the energy that it takes to share the film afterwards and make the money back. So we do hope that it continues to do well in schools and then continues to do well in Netflix, and then everybody watching this channel goes out and gets their kids to watch it somehow in due time.
Thank you very much for having me. Very much appreciated.
All
and
right,
thanks to
good night,
everyone
Alex.
for watching and listening. Thank you very much. Hopefully we didn't bore you too much. Thank you.
Good night, Alex.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Staring a photo, don't forget the way you look me in the eyes, and I keep you in my heart. In my heart is where you are. I still think of you. I want you coming back. I remember when we were staring a photo, don't forget the way you look me in the eyes, and I keep you in my heart. In my heart is where you are. I still think of